Welcome to our webinar about achieving success for MVNOs in the IoT market. This webinar is hosted by me, Andriy Zhylenko, CEO of PortaOne, and Satya Mekala from World Telecom Labs, our partner for many years for delivering comprehensive solutions for telecom operators around the world. And we're all interested to do new business in the IoT area. But can we ask you a question about your current operations so we understand better who is attending and how we can better assist you? I'm going to launch poll and you will be answering the questions there. And the reason we're interested in this because we have different operators coming from different backgrounds. And based on that, their infrastructure is different, their business process is different, and also their network of contacts of existing partners varies quite a lot. And of course, we want to create something which is reusable and can be applied in different situations. So we don't want to focus too much on something which can only be deployed by an operator with extensive expertise in B2B solutions and extensive partnerships there. Right now and next year, probably the special focus of PortaOne, World Telecom Labs, and many other telecom vendors would be on Africa and Nigeria in particular, because as those from Nigeria already know, those from outside maybe not, but there's a unique situation with about 13 new MVNO licenses awarded at the same time. So all these operators will be coming to the market, and it's going to be like Olympic Games for MVNOs, who has a better strategy, has better products and better approach. So it's very interesting, and we want to help them succeed and see how the best telecom solutions are going to win. So the results which we got, we have some telcos focused on consumer market, others on business market. Transport is interesting, and those who wrote other, if you can just send a chat message to myself or to Satya, we are always very interested to learn about new business models, something when people think outside of the box and go into new territories. So with that said, let's proceed to the main topic of our conversation today. We all hear about IoT, we all hear about the great potential which is there, and telecom operators, specifically wireless operators, are naturally involved there, and they want to be a part of it. The challenge which we see, it's if a telecom operator sees their role in IoT only supplying SIM cards, it's going to be a problem, because if you Google IoT SIM card, it will come with pages and pages of companies, local and international, offering the same thing, IoT connectivity. And with that amount of competition, it's clear that the prices will go down, the profitability will decrease, and what's even worse for customers, and IoT SIM cards, it's just a commodity. They can switch very easily from you to somebody else. So how to avoid the trap, how to avoid this price wars and just stay in a commodity provider? That's what we're going to discuss. The idea is to build an ecosystem and build a partnership with IoT enterprises which would last for a long time and will allow you to have a sustainable revenue source which grows as the customer business grows. If we follow this traditional path, as I said, because there's going to be fierce competition on the connectivity itself, the prices will go down, and very soon we'll find ourselves with no profits left. And loyalty among IoT providers is going to be low, because if there's, let's say, if there's FedEx and they are currently buying SIM cards for vehicle tracking from you, but if tomorrow some other provider offers them connectivity which is a bit cheaper, their procurement department will have no issues switching because, well, they see it as a cost savings for them, so it's the natural thing to do. And if there is nothing else beyond connectivity, this is what's going to happen. Plus, if you are a newcomer to the market, and if you're trying to sell to existing IoT players, so maybe you're trying to now lure FedEx with their vehicle tracking from their existing provider of connectivity to you, well, it's going to be difficult. You'll have to deal with their procurement department. You'll have to work with, try to offer some incentives. And most likely, again, what's going to happen, the only way for them to accept this, you'll have to lower prices. So this is not what you want to do. The idea is to start selling IoT connectivity to companies while they're still in their early stages establishing IoT service. So it's a new IoT venture. Somebody who just realized, well, they want to launch a product, an IoT service of agriculture, IoT, measuring humidity and only watering those parts where it's required. This was a big issue this summer in Spain, where I'm based, because we had a drought and they had to severely limit the amount of water which is available for watering the fields. So while that new enterprise is trying to put their product to the market, they are in the right moment for you to start working with them because they need a product right now. There's no established system. They would be difficult to change. There's no procurement department you have to fight with. But most important, at this stage, there are so many boxes they have to fill in their product architecture. And you have an option of helping them with that. So not just connectivity, because maybe it's a very valid case for Nigeria and other African countries, because the latency of connecting to major cloud data centers is still considerable. Most likely they would need some kind of local storage facilities or maybe edge computing to make sure whatever happens, it happens on the local servers in Nigeria, so it's faster and perhaps cheaper, and it satisfies their requirements. Or maybe it's the data storage, which is according to government regulations. So if they export their customer data outside of the country, it's going to be a big problem for them to organize it from the legal perspective. And once you become the provider of these components in the ecosystem, you are together. It's not going to be, it's not going to matter now for provider if somebody else offers them connectivity at a fraction of a percent cheaper, because they don't want to go for all that hassle of restructuring the internal architecture. And you can continue building this ecosystem through your network of partners. So for those of you who are already providing business services, well, it could be some of these businesses can become your sales channels, or you can use that service as an add-on to upsell to existing customers. For consumers, also it could be a way to engage the people there and use them as your additional sales channel, or somebody who brings you additional revenue. It all sounds great. The biggest problem with these IoT startups, we know majority of startups is going to fail. So how do you do this in a way which is actually efficient? Because if you are spending your resources, your energy, your time on attempting to bring to the market companies and they fail before they start bringing revenue, not going to be very efficient for you. So right now, it's a huge market for IoT, and there's going to be a lot of companies coming to that market. How we can make them succeed, and specifically for IoT startups, one of the biggest challenge is that period when they go from the idea, so they realized, and I'll be using my example of a service which measures where water should be supplied on the field, but could be anything else, until they actually go to market with their product. So the idea is to shorten the time as much as possible and also make it that success rate for IoT startups is higher, and it means the rate at which you are getting new customers, the rate at which new customers start bringing you more revenue is higher. For devices, for IoT devices, the biggest problem lies in the actual device manufacturing. So somebody can build a prototype on their desk in a lab in a few weeks, but then it takes a year or sometime more to get an actual piece which can be given to customers, because we have to put it in the case, we have to make sure it's reliable, we have to do the manufacturing, we have to know the manufacturing in Taiwan, China, and some other factory. They have to deal with shortage of microchips, with shipping delays, and all the things going in the world right now. And as experience shows, when they order the first version, it comes back and there is some problem. And now, in order to be fixed, that cycle has to be repeated again. So during that year or more, which they spend on developing and fixing their hardware device, a lot of things can happen. They can run out of cash, the situation in the market can change, something else. There's a way to shorten this to just 1 or 2 months with a rapid deployment kit called IoT Mill. And it's a device which already manufactured, already tested. It's ready to deploy. It's a box which has all the basic sensors built in, such as GPS. It can also read data from external sensor as a Bluetooth gateway. It has the software required to connect to the network. So in order to create an application which reads meter data and sends it to cloud storage, they don't need any specialized embedded developer. A general programmer or person with IT experience can just configure from where to extract the data and where to send it. And they can give that box to their first customer, and to the second one, and to the first 100 of customers. If something needs to be changed, they will be making changes in software, so it's extremely fast and extremely efficient. So they can launch that product, and they can adjust the product, because also we know for startups, very rarely they get successful with their original idea. Airbnb, huge company, they started with the idea of you will be actually getting an air mattress and sleeping in somebody's room with air mattress. Okay, they had to pivot. They were able to do it, and now they're successful. So by giving the stable box and allowing them to quickly change the software, we enable these companies to launch extremely fast. So this engineer, it can be a developer, doesn't have to be developer familiar with embedded devices, with the hardware. They can very easily, just using the configuration UI, configure which meter data we need, where to send them. So it could be Google or Azure IoT. It can be your data warehouse, which will provide them locally, which will satisfy their specific requirements. And then they just need to create the front end part, so something which gives their customer ability to either see the reporting or turn on the sprinklers on the specific part of a field, that part of a business logic which actually delivers the value. And one problem which still remains there, because we all know, especially in places like Africa, there are many locations where there's going to be no good connectivity from the host operator, from host MNO. How can you address that, and how you can turn this problem into an opportunity? And for that, I'm going to pass microphone to our partner, Satya Mekala.
Thank you very much. It was very informative, the total story of IoT Mill. Ladies and gentlemen, WTL is a Belgian company. We are from Belgium. We are specialized in supplying core systems to the mobile operators and value-added service platforms. That is our business. And we also supply small cells, 2G and 4G, to connect the unconnected population in Africa and elsewhere. That is our business. Yeah. So when we are talking about the present opportunity as we see, WTL can help particular MVNO if he is trying to do some IoT business in a remote area where there is no connectivity. We could actually help them to put some small cells to cover the area by which you can get all the readings you need in that particular region, for instance, if you want. Other than that, we have other larger business cases based on the small cells, which we can talk offline. But here mainly, we can supply the complete solution for you for your connectivity needs in the remote areas where you are trying to do the IoT business or even voice business, for instance. Yeah. And when you are putting these small cells in the remote areas, you also can add more value-added services like we are talking about IoT. We can also do fintech and other value-added services like health, e-health, e-agriculture, and education. Yeah. So it is better for you to listen to the story because the story is bigger than this slide. But I just want to tell you that when you have a connectivity problem, there is a solution. That is important to know. Yeah. Can you go to the next slide, please, if you don't mind? Yes. As we are talking about Africa and mainly for Nigeria, we have around 42 MVNOs there now, licensees, not MVNOs. There are few of them are moving fast and few are moving slowly. But to help in such a challenging environment where you have very low ARPU, WTL and partner like PortaOne, we created an ecosystem. What does it mean? Is that you come to us and you have a complete bouquet of services and products by which you can launch your MVNO very successfully at the same time when your average revenue per user is lower. But because of our new enhanced services and solutions like IoT or fintech solutions, for instance, that's another one, educational services, whatever. So which will be on top of whatever the revenue you are making are required for you to be successful. And that is what WTL is proud of doing it. And we have local team there in Nigeria and for African sense, in a sense, where we can support you, even this IoT Mill and all. If you have any questions, you can contact PortaOne or WTL directly or our local people sitting in Nigeria, and we will help you out on that. And I just don't want to take too much time, but there is a poll coming up next. I would like you to look at that poll and inform us which particular business case is more interesting or revenue making. So it's a poll, so you can choose one of them and let us know what your idea is. That will give us a feedback saying to know which particular thing is more hot in the market now. Thank you.
Thank you, Satya. And yes, I welcome your responses in the poll, because one of the things we're trying to do, we're trying to create blueprints for success. The advantage of having customers in multiple regions and countries is that sometimes the demands for specific services, it develops with a different speed. So some things which already developed, and we have customers who are happy to share their success and their insights about creating a particular service. Maybe in Brazil, for instance, we have a long-standing partner, and currently they're serving about 3 million SIM cards just for devices. So no real humans among those 3 million. Some of those things may be just coming up in Africa, or it could be the other way around. So we're always happy to transfer that knowledge, but we want to know what we should focus on. And also, as I mentioned, if you see yourself with some very interesting idea which doesn't fit into these options which we provided, you're welcome to write it in the chat, or you also are welcome to contact PortaOne World Telecom Labs later on to discuss, because we are happy to help. We're happy to provide our expertise, and so frequently by reusing some of the approaches and some of the things which were done already for other customers, we can significantly decrease the time it's required to go to the market and also reduce risks. But also there could be some challenges which were faced and successfully, and the other customers successfully overcome them. So we can save your team some time and efforts on dealing with that. And I'm happy to share the results. Okay, so looks like the security and vehicle tracking are going back to back, and they're the most interesting ones. Okay, well, thank you very much for your input. That we will use it to see for which particular areas we should first create materials, produce additional webinars, and help you to learn more about those topics. The idea which we described is for you as MVNO, as MNO, getting successful in IoT market is thinking beyond just providing connectivity, which is going to be commodity, but instead building an ecosystem which will allow new IoT enterprises to bring the product to the market faster with higher success rate by using rapid deployment kits such as IoT Mill, extending your reach into a rural area with solutions like World Telecom Labs provide, and making your service unique and standing out compared to the competition by reusing these ideas, value-added services, and other things which will help you grow faster from other customers. And in this case, PortaOne World Telecom Labs, we have a unique position with customers in multiple different countries, different regions. We can share that knowledge, and also the customers there, they're not afraid to share it, because again, from customer from Brazil, they come into our conferences and they're doing it over the years, because, well, if there's more successful MVNOs in Africa, it's not bad for them, it's actually good, because they can be their partners in the future. And let me check if there are any questions. Okay, well, I'll answer a question in a minute. One final thing, we have a guide of becoming a better MVNO with IoT, which provides more details on what we have discussed. You will receive a link. You are welcome to download it. Okay, one of the questions is whether the IoT Mill can be branded for specific operator, and the answer is yes. It probably makes sense if when you reach a certain volume, because obviously we'll have to order the redesigned manufacturing. So if it's just about putting a label, the device is, you can put it on the outside of the box, it's easy. And when you reach successful enough volume, we're happy to organize manufacturing of OEM devices. So it's not going to be IoT Mill, it's going to be your ex-telecom IoT solution. And the question about which contacts we have among the USA carriers, like for PortaOne, about 1/3 of our customers are based in North America. Some of them are more on the VoIP side, the cloud PBX providers, but the others, they are doing MVNOs, and we're doing routinely events where we invite people to speak about, and some of them, for instance, we recently did Africa meetup in Cape Town with our customers invited and sharing their success stories. I think that's already on our YouTube channel. So if you are also seeking particular insights, we're welcome to check our channel, our materials, and also contact us if you have a specific idea when you're looking for a partner. We'll be happy to help if we can. Satya, are there any frequently asked questions which you get about your solutions, which is worth covering now?
Yes. Most of the time in Africa, I'm talking about because we are doing this in African sense. In African sense, the cost of entering the market is one of the biggest questions people ask me all the time. And how do we sustain and be successful at low revenue countries? These are the two questions always they ask me. I think it's a effective negotiation with the MNO, which is important. Second is keeping the cost under control, is very important. And third challenge you have if you are starting value-add service like IoT is the connectivity, which is still a problem. So I would say that cost control and a proper negotiation with the operator will help you in Africa to be sustainable. And a very quick acquisition of customers, which I would say that why? Because it's far more easy, faster if you plan well to get customers in highly dense countries like Nigeria than, for instance, in Belgium. We are only 10 million people, half of Lagos. See what I mean? So this question is not here, but I was just trying to throw it.
Okay, excellent. And there were a few questions which are specifically about getting in touch and discussing your particular idea. We will definitely follow up with that after the webinar.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for attending. It was a pleasure to have you here, and I hope that very soon you will open a new chapter in your operations with a successful deployment of IoT services. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
1 second. Somebody asked a question for WTL. If we have any partner in Brazil. Actually, we used to have an office in Brazil a couple of years ago. So we have a partner. If you can give your contact details, we will try to reconnect you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.